I think that everybody that has a YouTube channel or a podcast or both can probably relate to this. You post a video and it does 10 times better than you expected. So many more people are watching it. And you feel like, yes, I finally figured it out. So, fueled by that dopamine hit of getting all of those views, you start working on your next episode. And when working on that next episode, your title's awesome, your thumbnail is fantastic, the script is probably the best you've ever done. You post that video, and it just doesn't do very well. Nobody's watching it. In a desperate attempt to try and save the video, you change the title and thumbnail a bunch of times, but it's just not working. And you feel like, what did I do wrong? How come this video only has 20,000 views? 20,000 views? Who in the hell would complain about 20,000 views? Well, somebody who just got way more than that. You see, the problem with YouTube is that success is a moving target. It's like a giant, never-ending mountain range, and every time you get to the peak or summit of a mountain because you've got a really great video that performed really well, you don't really get to relish in that success, because off in the distance you see more mountains and they're higher than the last one, and you just got to keep climbing them. And man, that can be frustrating sometimes. When you post that next video and it doesn't perform as well as the previous one, it feels like you slipped down the surface of the peak that you just climbed. But what's really happening is you've gotten to the summit and you're going down the other side, approaching the higher peak off in the distance. Of course, there's a bunch of trees and stuff in your way, so you can't really see that peak anymore. All you can see is that you're going downhill, which is the opposite of what you feel like you want to do. But YouTube analytics are really useful, and there's an easy way to measure how far you've come. Think of the YouTube analytics like a GPS of your trip so far. Yes, you've made some wrong turns, but you've been constantly moving in the right direction. So let's fire up our analytics and let's see if we can find a healthier way to look at them. But before we look back, I want to talk about some scenarios that really used to confuse me. And in order to do that, I want to talk about what the most important stats mean in order to get everybody on the same page. And there's a lot of data here, really an overwhelming amount. So first off, let's pick a video and click on analytics, and then we're going to click on reach. This is known as the funnel, and I've had this video up for about 10 days, and it has had 545,000 impressions. An impression is whenever somebody sees your title and thumbnail on their phone or on their TV or on their iPad or, on their computer, when they're just scrolling through YouTube, if they happen to scroll past your title and thumbnail, that is an impression. Now, something to keep in mind, if you post your video outside of YouTube to like Twitter or Threads or Instagram or something like that, and somebody sees that, that does not count as an impression. So this is only stuff that is trackable by YouTube for, how many times that somebody's seen it. And for this video, over 10 days, it got 545,000 impressions. Next in the funnel is the click-through rate, which is basically how many people what percentage of the people who were served that video as a possibility of something to watch actually clicked on it. And you can see that this particular video has a click-through rate of 5.4%, meaning that 545,000 people saw the title and thumbnail. 5.4% of them decided that's intriguing enough for me, I'm going to click on it. And then after they clicked on it, that counts as a view. And that's where this number is, views from impressions. I got almost 30,000 views on this particular video that I posted about 10 days ago. All right, those people who are watching, how long did they watch for? That's the next part on the funnel. On average, they watched for 8 minutes and 12 seconds, and this is a 17-minute video. Keep in mind, how long is your video? And we'll talk about this in a little bit, but how long is your video when you're looking at your average view duration? Because if you have an average view duration of like 4 minutes, but it's a 5-minute video, then that's going to be like a banger. But if you have, 4 minutes on an hour-long video, that's not very good. So just kind of always keep in mind that none of these stats have like this is the best stat that you can get, because all of the different stats affect all of the other stats. The next thing that we look at is how many hours did people sit down and watch your video? And this one always boggles my mind. How many hours did people sit and watch my video for? For this video, they watched it for 4,000 hours. People spent 4,000 hours watching this video that I posted. When you look at it that way, it's so much healthier than looking at just how many people clicked it. How many people really spent time watching your video and taking in the information that you were giving them? That is a huge number, and it's very hard for people to conceptualize that amount of time, especially for your videos that are performing really well. All right, now that we're all on the same page, I want to talk about some confusing situations that I've looked at in the past. I'm going to try and explain why this data can sometimes feel counterintuitive, because most people expect that when a video is getting a high click-through rate, that YouTube will give it some more impressions. People like clicking on this. Let me show it to more people. But sometimes you'll get a video that has a really great click-through rate, but your impressions are way lower than you usually get. So why would that happen? Well, we'll answer that in a second, but first we should probably define what is a high click-through rate. According to YouTube, half of all YouTube channels and videos that are on YouTube have an impressions click-through rate that can range somewhere between 2% and 10%. The real reason that you're looking at a tiny fraction of the data that YouTube uses to decide which videos to show to a user, perhaps you've got a video with a click-through rate of 10%, but some other channel that your viewers are watching is currently performing better overall, and your higher CTR is because of a lower number of impressions. That video has been shown to your most loyal viewers first, and they're going to be way more likely to click than people who have never seen your channel before. So try and keep that in mind when basically the higher your impressions go, the lower your click-through rate is going to get. For me, the most important stat is engagement. It might not be the most important stat to YouTube, but here's how I look at it. What makes YouTube happy? If people are watching my video or podcast for a long time. So my goal is to do everything I can to keep people's attention for as long as possible. Now, in the analytics, we've got two pieces of information here. We've got average view duration and average percentage viewed. These are really good pieces of information that you should always look at together, because you should expect that your longer videos are going to have a lower average percentage viewed. So if you look at them together, it gives you a good reason to understand why you might be getting a low number. But the best part is the graph down here on the bottom. It shows you how your video is performing moment to moment through the whole video and compares it with other videos that you made of similar lengths. Now, there is a lot of really good information here on this graph, but first off, down here on the bottom, I want to point this out. It says that 67% of people are still watching around the 30-second mark, which is typical. What does this mean? Well, if that number gets too low, then that tells YouTube that people aren't happy with the video when they first start watching it. So they get the impression, they click it, they're now part of that click-through rate, they're watching the video. If you don't get their attention in that first 30 seconds, they might leave, or they might start skipping around in your video trying to find the information that they actually came for. So if that number starts to get too low, then you might want to look at what you're doing at the beginning of your videos to try and make that number go up higher. Next up, let's move on to this purple line graph. That is the retention for this video, and you want this graph to be as flat as possible. Now, you're probably wondering what is happening right here. Well, that's where I had a sponsor for that particular video. So, I did my intro, I said here, and then I went over the sponsor read, and then I moved on to the content of the video. A bunch of people skipped over that. That's fine. I try, if I'm making a sponsor read for one of my videos, I try and make it as entertaining as possible. Sometimes I do little skits and stuff to try and push this line up into the gray. And I guess I probably didn't do a very good job on this particular ad because people skipped over it. But you can see that in the rest of the video, it's all above that gray area. The gray area is all of the other videos that I've posted that are roughly 17 minutes in length. And this video did very well compared to those other videos. So that I am really happy with. So now we've covered which stats I tend to look at first. Let's take a look at how we can compare our videos to our older videos. So let's go ahead and open up our analytics. And this is the analytics for my most recent video, which I published on, we can go back December 22nd, okay? And if we want to make a comparison, I'm going to hit advanced mode, and it's going to bring up this little graph that shows me when the views started happening. You can see I had a huge spike on the 22nd, and then it started to fall off. This happens with a lot of my videos because they're very news focused, but I want to compare it to another video, which I believe is similar in tone. Before I do that, I want to set the first 24 hours, and I just want to look at how does my video compare to those first 24 hours of my other videos. So here you can see this gray line, almost like a highlighter going through here. And this is the range of your first 24 hours of views. So in the first 24 hours, typical, I'll have somewhere between 11,000 and 23,000 views on one of my videos. This particular video, that's the blue line, is doing really well. It's up near the top of that gray zone, and in the first 23 hours, 57 minutes, it got about 22,400 views. But let's compare that to another video that I know is kind of the same tone as this one, but also performed really well. So I'm gonna pick this one. It's called How Valve Turned Failure into Success. It's from October, and I click on it. And I just want to look at their first 24 hours first. So as I look, it seems like they were kind of neck and neck for the first hour. And then the purple one, How Valve Turned Failure into Success, this is my older video, started to outpace it. All right, after the first 5 hours, the older video was 11,800 views, and my newer video was only 8,500 views. We go to the end of that first 24 hours, and you can see that they're not that far apart. 22,400 versus 25,500. So you can see here that my failure to success video, the purple line, got more views in that first 24 hours than the blue one did. Now I want to take a look at a longer time scale. I'm going to switch it over to since published. So what you can see when I do that is that the graph, obviously it's on a much longer axis. It's out to 14 days for the purple one, and the blue one has only been out for 10 days, so it can't keep going. But we can kind of see that over time, the blue one, How Does Valve Do It, started to surpass the purple one, How Valve Turned Failure into Success. This is really good information for me. It's not anything that I can act on, but it makes it helps me understand that, in that first 24 hours, it's not necessarily the end all be all of how your video is going to perform. In fact, take a look at this. This part, How Does Valve Do It? This is my newest video, and I'm comparing it. It's outpacing my older video by quite a bit. In fact, if you look here, it's got almost 10,000 more views than the older one. But if we go and take a look at that particular video, we can now see how that video did over time. And you know what? It took off like a rocket, did very, very well, kind of flattened out for a while. And then somewhere on day 35, YouTube found another audience for this particular video, and it took off. Now, if I compare that to my most recent video, How Does Valve Do It? You can see there's my purple line that we were looking at before. And I mean, if that continues on its trajectory right now, it's probably not going to perform as well as the How Valve Turned Failure into Success video. But This just goes to show you that you never know what's going to happen with a video, and way too many people quit like right here. They get to this point and they're like, it's never going to perform. And so they give up. And I'm just trying to show you that there's no good reason for you to give up on that, because sometimes it can just take off for no apparent reason. But the most important way to keep your sanity while you're running your YouTube channel is to look at how you've done in the past instead of just looking at how you're doing now. Remember that GPS that shows where you've been that I mentioned at the beginning of the video when we were talking about hiking through the mountains? It's right here. Go to your channel analytics and click on advanced mode, and you're going to see this graph. At the top, you can click compare to, and then click on period over period. This compares your last 28 days to the previous 28 days so that you can see how your channel's doing. Right here, I can see that in the last 28 days, I got 376,000 views. And in the previous 28 days, I got 488,000 views. That tells me, oh no, my channel's starting to slip, or at least that's what it would tell me if I didn't check it at 90 days. So let's check it to 90 days. I'm going to get rid of my comparison, and I'm going to switch this over to 90 days. And then I'm going to hit compare to period over period. And now I'm going to look at how were the last 3 months on my channel compared to the previous 3 months on my channel. So the last 3 months on my channel, I got 1.1 million views. And the previous 3 months on this channel, I got 1.1 million views. So the last 3 months, or the last 28 days, it was actually like a bit of a slump. But if I look at the wider picture, it's actually holding steady. Now I want to look at a whole year. So I'm going to get rid of my comparison. I'm going to switch this to the last 365 days. And then I'm going to say compare to year, period over period. Okay. So this is going to compare the last year to the previous year before that. Specifically January 1st to December 31st, 2023, January 1st to December 31st, 2022. And if we look at the views for both of these, they look pretty similar, but if we look for the views of both of these, I got 4.8 million views this year, and well, last year, because I'm recording this on January 1st, and then 2.7 million, or almost 2.8 million views the year before, meaning that I've almost doubled the number of views that I had the year before. But if I just looked at the last 28 days, it's going to make me feel like my my channel is not doing well because I'm getting less views this particular month. Just keep in mind that when you're looking at this, you can zoom out and look at it at a much larger picture. And I think it's a better way to look at your analytics. So we're able to look back and make a comparison to how well we did over the lifetime of our channel. And while there are definitely going to be those peaks and valleys, there is this upward trajectory that's hard to see when you're just looking at the moment and looking at analytics for a specific video. But it's also important to keep in mind that your analytics don't define your channel. And if you want to check out an awesome conversation that I had about analytics with my friend Rich, then check out this video right here.